Jonathan Hanson, how you doing, man?
Very good. Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, I'm pumped that we finally did this. I think we talked about it like a year and a half ago to have you on the podcast.
We did.
Yeah, and it just like never worked out. Work gets in the way of the whole thing.
Yeah, sir. I remember we did like Earn Your Sunrise, like some speaking videos. That was fun. In your old office, your old studio.
Man, it's been a crazy ride. Remind me of your middle name again.
Jerry. That's my dad's name.
It's just funny to me because Jonathan Jerry Hanson.
Yeah.
But you're Latino.
I'm Latino Peruano, yes.
Amazing. All right, so that's where we get to like start from the beginning, right? Like, what were you like in high school?
Oh yeah, bro. You know what? I've helped you record so many of your episodes, and you always start with that, and I did not come prepared for that, but let me think. I mean, I don't need to think a lot, to be honest. I was super social. Yeah, high school.
Did you go to high school in
I went to
the
high
States?
school. No, in Peru. So technically, they don't divide it, elementary, middle, high school. It's just like school.
Yeah.
Primary and secondary.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and what would be my high school years here, 9th, 10th, 11th, something like that, right? Yeah, I was social. I was getting into a lot of trouble at school. Yeah. And honestly, my mom kept me on the right track academically, and I did well and was able to go to a good college over there. But yeah, just social. And
Did you play sports in high school?
I did, but I wasn't too disciplined. But I still competed and stuff in like track stuff.
That makes a lot of sense because I know you to like be a runner, a boxer. I mean, you do a lot of physical things, but running seems to be the thing that you do a lot of.
Yeah. There's a kind of a funny story about running with me, like the origin story. I kind of was born kind of bow-legged, and like the doctor that saw me, like this orthopedic doctor or whatever, said that the best thing for me was to run. And I was living here in the States, and my mom sent me to Peru for a summer, and my grandma would take me out to run with her dog, and like she would go in the car and I would go with her dog, like just hauling ass on the like boardwalk or whatever. And yeah, so yeah, that's crazy how I just like remember that recently.
So how long, like, that sounds, there's a movie that reminds me of it.
Yeah, Forrest Gump.
Yeah. I didn't want to be offensive.
No, for sure. Yeah. I thought about it too. Yeah. I love that movie too.
But how long did you like run for before like your like bow-leggedness was like cured, so to speak?
That's another thing. I don't know if it was ever cured. I do feel sometimes I have like lower back pain and stuff like that I do kind of think it's associated to that, you know.
Yeah.
But and also I don't want to come off as this like super accomplished and really good runner. I have done it all my life. That is 100% true. But yeah, it's not like I really was very competitive about it. Maybe the last 3 years is when I've ran like my only 3 or 4 marathons. So it's not like I've done a ton, but yes, it's been a big part of my life.
Yeah. It's crazy to me when you say you're not like an accomplished runner, because I guess there goes my phone. I guess that's like subjective, because I don't know. For one, you know, when we were running together relatively often, I vaguely remember at least like 7-minute splits for like 5 miles. For me, that's for you. I was not doing that. But like for me, I'm like, that's really fast for me. And for me, that would be like an accomplishment. Plus would you consider them ultras? I know you've done 30s and a 50. Have you done 100 yet?
No, I did. Yeah. The max I've done is a 50K. So that's 31 miles.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So 50K is
yeah. My next step is a 50 miler, I think.
Yeah.
Which I was looking at some here, like there was one in October, but yeah, I didn't get ready.
Yeah. There's some people, they run down like the street and that's accomplishment for them. So I think you're accomplished personally.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, sometimes it's like you said, subjective, and sometimes we hold ourselves to these like nonsense standards, right? So,
what is it about running like a 30-mile race, 50 kilometers? Like what I don't know, like what makes you want to run that far? Most people are like a marathon. Yeah, you know what I mean? And even when I say most people, that's like 1% of the population is like, I want to run a marathon. But like, what makes you want to do like a 30-mile race?
Yeah, it's honestly, there's a point where it's like almost like a trance. Like you're in a trance state of a very specific form of consciousness, like your heart rate and your breathing and your brain, like everything how it's working, like everything is just optimal for you to be running. So it your body gets to a point that's very interesting how you feel. That's one, but also I heard this about yoga the other day. That they said it's like the martial art with yourself, something like that. I feel running is a lot like that too, where you're just battling that voice in your head that's like, why are you doing this? Like, just stop. You can walk, eat a brownie, go home. Like, what are you, what? It's a Saturday, bro. What are you doing? But yeah, I don't know. It comes a little bit to, yeah, what I was saying to you about, like, there's something in like pain that some people find like pleasure in athletically, and like this like punishing yourself, which is maybe the most negative connotation of it, but more so also like just, yeah, I don't know, just the self-talk, the intrusive thoughts in general, you know.
Dude, it's so true. You ever see that like David Goggins video where he's just like, where the videographer is like, hey David, why are you running in the snow with your shirt off and no headphones? You ever see that one? And his response is just like, because you're not, motherfucker. I'm just like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? And then he says another one about the headphones where it's like, well, there's no music on the battlefield of life, or something like super David Goggins-y of him. And in my head, I'm just like, I guess that's a little bit of that mentality, but like for you, like when you're done with these long runs, because you'll like regularly, from what I see, right, you're regularly doing like 10 miles, something like that. After it, like, do you feel like this thing? It's like, all right, I did that. There's now what else can get in my way today?
I do. That's definitely a big thing. Like, and you know, like that's probably the biggest thing, but the thing I kind of pay attention the least to. And I work out for all the other reasons, but that's the most really valuable reason, you know?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. And the David Goggins quote kind of made me think also about, yeah, there's also that competitive side and that like male side of like, oh, I'm doing this because you can't do this.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
very primal. And I don't like shy away from that kind of like primal thinking. Like I also feel there's a space for it, but at the same time, I don't believe and I don't like to be like uber competitive anymore and like feel like I'm in high school trying to make myself different all the time, you know, standing out. Like I'm cool with blending in too, you know?
Yeah.
So that isn't something I think about too, in which like how much does that motivate me, like being competitive with my peers, let's say. And it is, I mean, I guess in every male there's something of that, right? But yeah,
that's kind of interesting because as well as running, I know you as a boxer, and like we met, I guess at boxing, briefly at Grandpa's, then like but I think officially at Boxing Lab, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You competed in boxing for a while, I want to say. Can you tell
a
me a
few
little
years.
bit about that?
Yeah.
Like what got you into boxing? Like what were you like?
So, yeah, long story short, I had this friend in high school, one of my best friend in high school, still one of my best friends, like, from Peru, that he was super into martial arts. He was into Muay Thai and MMA, and we got into that. And slowly I diverted into boxing. I don't know how, like, what exactly pulled me into it. I had some friends that were more into boxing than those other martial arts, so I guess them. Yeah, I always kind of fell into things at that age, you know? So it wasn't like I sought it out. I just kind of fell into it. And I always practiced it. And then at 25, I had some series of events in my life that kind of was like, okay, now like I'm free to do whatever I want right now. And I had never competed. I felt I had put in several years of training, and I started competing. like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I fought like 9 times in a span of like 5 or 6 years. Sometimes frequently, sometimes not that frequently. But yeah, I loved every second of it. I'm not saying I'm done with it, but yeah, that's also a big part of my life, fighting. I feel
Yeah.
I always from elementary school I was a fighter too. Like same thing, running and fighting is like I've done it all my life, and obviously there's a horrible connotation to like, oh, I fought all my life, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just kind of tended to be the aggressive type in some kind of interaction. So,
Like you were getting in fights in elementary school?
yes. Sometimes I feel I was getting bullied and I just fought back.
Yeah.
That's my perspective, though, of like a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or whatever, you know. But yeah, I was getting into a lot of fights. That's why mostly, like I said, when I was getting in trouble in school, it was like fights or like, yeah, some sort of like vandalism, like in school, you know.
But you're being a kid.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? It's so funny. We talk about these things like now. It's, to quote you, it's like we're no spring chickens now. But it's like you look back and you're like, man, I was really out of line. But then you kind of like look at it as like, we were just being kids. you know?
Yeah.
So it's funny, runner, boxer, now like videographer, business owner, like that whole thing. But when you graduated high school, you ended up going to like one of the top colleges in Peru, right?
Yes.
And was this for finance?
For business.
For business.
Yeah. It's a school that only had 3 majors: finance, business, and economics. So it was like a very finance economics school, but that also had business. Business was like the lower degree there.
Got it.
But yeah, so I did that. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting because, and I'm excited to get into this, but you went to this school for business, finance, and economics, you mentioned. Your degree ended up being in business.
Yes, sir.
Then you worked at like PwC for a while.
I did for a couple years, yeah.
What did you do there? Like, this is like the biggest accounting firm in the world, isn't it? Like something like that?
Yeah, one of the top 5, top 4.
It's crazy.
Top 5. I was a transfer pricing analyst, which is so technical and dumb. It has to do with accounting. It has to do with corporations not evading taxes by selling services in between,
Like the core competencies or something like that?
Exactly.
Like so, for example, for me as a marketing agency, I can't also provide like babysitting services and write off like whatever, like, and write off all the diapers I buy for my kid type of thing to avoid taxes.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly that. Yeah. A larger scale for corporations,
Right.
for example, that could be like renting 100 of acres lot or admin services or whatever, you know. So, but yes, basically that.
Yeah. Were you good at this job?
I don't know.
I mean, that's such a messed up question,
no,
but it's
that's
like
a great question. I don't know. Like, I've always been good with numbers is a thing.
Really?
I've been good with numbers and with letters, but not with so much with social interactions. So, yeah. And yeah, my attention span has always been all over the place. Like, I have ADHD. So that's also something that wasn't very hand in hand with what people kind of looked like there. They were very by the rule and stuff, which, yeah, I was definitely the I don't know how to say it, but yeah, the black sheep kind of.
Yeah. But I just, it's such a dichotomy from what you're doing right now. And like, when I think of, remind me, what was the title again?
Transfer pricing
analyst.
Yeah.
I
started as an intern, and then they hired me when I finished college.
Yeah. And you did this for a couple years.
Yeah.
And so I think of that person in the back, like sitting at a desk in front of a computer with a tie
for hours and hours on end.
I cannot imagine you in that position.
Like, and these are legal documents that I had to put together of like maybe hundreds of pages of like, this is what we've analyzed about the industry, the sector, this core business, the intercompany services they are rendering, what their prices are, what the market real prices are, how they're really proving that. And so it's like an extensive accounting legal document. It's much more accounting and legal than finance.
Got it.
PwC is definitely more known for consulting and for like strategy and finance, right? But this is more like the legal side, like being compliant. So I have a hard time picturing myself doing that too.
Yeah. Well, it's again such a dichotomy from that, and it's like I look at you as a creative type of thing. You obviously believed on the inside, like, this isn't for me, otherwise you wouldn't have jumped ship. So I'm curious, what was that transition like from this very corporate 9-to-5 situation to, you know what, I'm gonna do videos?
That's a great question, and I don't think I've ever like tried to pinpoint it that way, but I do know that the job that I left PricewaterhouseCoopers for, and that like my family was like, what are you doing, was like there's these dudes that had brought like the representation or like the franchise basically of a brand of like KT tapes. And it's called Spider Tech. I don't know even if they're like live anymore, but they were very focused on athletes. So, and they needed someone to like kind of handle the whole thing. So I had the business like degree and that kind of expertise. Not a lot of expertise, I would say, but also I was kind of an athlete and this and that. And that was my first experience kind of having, free reign and what do I like to do? And that's where I realized, like I like the marketing, the creative side, the creating stuff, like basically, creating. So I've always liked like music production as a kid, art in general. But I do tie it a lot to like music production. When I was 13, I have another friend that we were like recording full albums on like all instruments, like all instruments you can think of, and composing the songs and just doing work that I still listen to, and I'm like, wow, like, okay, like we're not the most talented musicians or whatever, but that's amazing. We were putting together these things at that age. And he's now in like A&R at Universal.
Oh shoot.
He was at Interscope, then now he's at Universal. I might be wrong. He might be somewhere else now. He's now in the East Coast, but yeah. And he's from Peru too. So, that crazy story there. But so yeah, I got this Spider Tech job at KT Tape, and from there I just decided to I wanted to move back to the States, and I knew I wanted to do that. I kind of deeply wanted to do that. I kind of had been in a few long-term relationships, and I was in the position to where like, okay, I can kind of start over now. Starting over with Spider Tech from PwC, that transition wasn't too bad. Everyone said it would suck. I did well. Like I can like go for more. So I always knew I wanted to come back here. My dad lived here. So I came back here. I came first to the Valley. I started getting like these random jobs. I had like a dishwasher job. I also had like a sales and marketing job.
That's so funny, man.
And then
this crazy degree working at PwC, then you're washing dishes.
Yeah, bro. And honestly, I don't think I was happier at PwC. I think I was definitely happier when I was riding a bike. I didn't even have a car when I just moved here because I'm not the best planner. I just moved here, bro. And we kind of like crashed at a friend's mom's house first. We got these jobs. And she gave us a deadline, like I'll give you like a roof for like 90 days. And we were out before 90 days. But yeah, that entailed me getting 2 jobs. One was at a dishwasher. I rode my bike and the bus to work and worked 7 days a week at first. And honestly, I still loved it. I always loved California. I was born here and lived here as a kid. And I always, I guess, kind of like romanticized it being there in Peru, at which I love Peru too. But yeah, so I was still happy. And long story short, then I got this other job opportunity that brought me to the East Coast. And that's where I had even more liberty to like go into the creative side. So it was kind of a step-by-step process. It wasn't like from PwC to making videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a PwC to like just managing a small business to like, oh, I like marketing to, oh, I like doing the videos and the photos and more the creative side of things.
It's still like a crazy transition. I guess you were an adult at this point, so like your parents just
I think so. I don't
right
know.
I don't know, sometimes I think about it, like I look at 22-year-olds now. Do you do this? Like I look at 22-year-olds, I'm like, you're just a kid, you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I feel at 18 I felt like such an adult, and right now, bro, at 33 I feel sometimes at least like I act like a kid, bro.
I'm 36 with a kid, and I'm like, who gave me this thing?
That's right, bro.
You know, and I think now the difference is like we just have the awareness that we don't know anything, and we're all just kind of winging it.
I think that's exactly it. At least we have the awareness.
Yeah, 100%. But I think it's interesting that you can do that. I mean, did you get any pushback from your family or anything when you were quitting? Or
of course, yeah, yeah. My mom is very traditional. I wanted to go to school, so I guess this all ties in, and I never tied it in, but then it ties in. I wanted to go to school for music Ideally, I wanted to be a musician, but obviously, I knew from the get-go I wasn't like as talented or disciplined enough to be so good, you know. So, but I knew I was good at music production because I was always good at a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
like writing, producing, sound engineering, playing the guitar, having creative input on someone else's song, whatever. So I wanted to go to Berklee College of Music for music production. And I had this whole like paperwork I presented to my family, like justifying it, which looking back, it was a lot of copy and pasting and not a lot of real research. But
so you put together a business plan as to
basically, yeah.
Yes. So all that business school that they sent you to, you did it to show them like, no, I actually want to go to music school.
Yes. This was before business school. So that's how I ended going to business school is what I was trying to say. I know, I got long on that story, but I wanted to go to music school. My family said like, no. And like basically very traditional, like business. Basically at business, like it's very traditional careers, like doctor, lawyer, whatever, you know. And so I kind of went with the most broad one, and the one I didn't necessarily feel like I was really good at or I had a passion for, but just like would serve me most in life later, I guess. Yeah.
That's it's funny, like you're on TikTok obviously, and I say obviously only because we follow each other on TikTok, so I'm like, of course I know that. Are you on TikTok? But do you ever see some of these musicians that are like they're like 8-9 years old and they're just ripping guitar like harder than like Slash? And you're like, to me personally, because I wanted to be a musician as well. My dad, there's no way first of all, I don't even think I was smart enough to know that there was like the Berklee School of Music at that point. I just wanted to be a rock star. But now I like look at these kids on TikTok and I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't pursue this because I cannot do that. Like, you know?
Yes. Like there's two sides to that coin. Like for example, there's this kid I follow on TikTok, like you said, like, bro, he's 7 years old and they always put on the captions like the parents are not musicians and the kid just like and plays everything, the saxophone, the piano, he sings, and he's just amazing. On the other side of that coin, there's a lot of like Billboard artists or whatever you want to say, top 10 Spotify artists that kind of have a look, a swag, a vibe, a way they pronounce things, and maybe songwriting skills, but are not necessarily music prodigiosos, you know? Or however you say that word.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy how much...
Prodigies,
yeah. It's crazy how much, like, TikTok has shown you the amount of, like, talent.
Yeah.
And now it's just, like, it's raised the bar of everything. It's even raised the bar of, like, content creation in general, which I think is kind of crazy.
It is crazy, and I do feel a lot of times, I look at TikTok creators and I'm like, wow, like this is an amazing piece of content.
Yeah, it's like this is an amazing piece of
and
content.
they're doing it every day or something, you know.
And you used all the cinematography skills to make a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah. And I don't. Yeah, there's people that like, oh, I'm a filmmaker. You're a videographer, content creator. Like, I don't do those things.
Yeah.
Like they're too much for that. I love like putting together a shot list and a storyboard for something as simple as like, yeah, a little product shoot or for whatever,
Yeah.
you know? So, and I do see like you're saying, the magic behind like even UGC content, you know?
Yeah.
So, and it is an art form in a sense. So yeah, I don't put it down in any way. I do feel like influencers do their art. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think everybody, to a certain extent, not actually a certain extent, everybody has their own zone of genius.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even into us, it's crazy. It's like things that we might consider to just be slop is like absolute masterpiece to somebody else. You know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that I've learned, like just with passions for music, being in the creative business of sorts, is just like your opinion actually does not really matter that much. There's a little bit of data now, like what pops off, let's say on TikTok. But outside of that, your opinion doesn't matter because there is somebody who's going to like it most of the time, a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I feel the more you realize that and the more you immerse yourself in just your craft or whatever, you also realize that, like, wait a second, I lost that. Like,
no, I was just saying like how our opinion doesn't matter really, because like there's somebody who's going to love it. And then you were mentioning like the more that you realize that, then
the more that you realize that, then
maybe the easier it is to create.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
How long have you owned your business now?
I'm sorry. I got stuck on that question. Yeah, let's just let it go. I've been a freelancer for like 6 years, 7 years, maybe 8. But like as a business, formal business, we started this year about like, maybe a year ago, actually. Yeah, maybe a year ago.
Freelancing is tough on its own, regardless. You know what I mean? I think if you have the testicular fortitude to, and not even that, for like women too, like the ovarian fortitude to like go ahead and like, if you have the courage, like that, I'm going to get blasted somehow for sure. And it's just, but it's coming from the heart.
No, I think that's acceptable.
But it's true. Yeah.
Testicular fortitude.
And ovarian fortitude, we're being fair.
Or for any.
Yeah, whatever. But anyways, if you have the courage to, say, I'm not going to depend on somebody else for a paycheck, that's an accomplishment in itself. And what I'm curious to know is like, running my own business, watching other freelancers, there's highs and there's lows, right? To everything that you're doing. Sometimes you're humming, sometimes you're like, dude, I will take any deal right now as long as like I can like, put some food on the table. Like, can you call back to like one of the lowest points in your freelance / business career and just talk to us a little bit about like what you were going through mentally and how you came out of that?
Yes, sir. So one thing I will say is that I've been fortunate in to have that business degree because it always gave me the position to get jobs in a way. And in that aspect, or in like I always went on the sure route, and I always had something to fall back on. Like I always had a 9 to 5 or a part-time or something, like I never went. There was one point though in Colorado. So yeah, there was one point. So this is one point. After a series of events in my life, I ended up moving to Colorado and just kind of starting over again in 2017, 2018. And what was the question? Sorry.
The lowest point in
Yeah, so there was a point where, I pursued freelancing full time, and it was hard. There was points where I didn't really have more than like one gig a week or something like that. And you can't really pay bills like that. But like, again, I will say that at that point in Colorado, I kind of moved in with, I moved in with my dad there. So I had that support system. then as soon as I got the freelance gig going, I moved here to California. I got some also part-time gigs as I built the freelance
Mm-hmm.
business. So yeah, like I'm not gonna, like, I had times like the dishwashing times and times where I was working 7 days a week. But at the same time, as a freelance artist, I feel I never went through too much of a struggle because I had my degree, because I had the support system like
Yeah.
my dad, and because I had, I never kind of threw myself into the pool, till
Yeah.
like later on, till like, okay, I have a big client network. I have a lot of
Yeah.
years of experience. I know how to do all these things. I have these licenses. So
That's interesting. And I love that you didn't like, I think a lot of people who start their freelance or their business, they'll maybe like embellish on like the low times and just make like, I did the thing. But, as practical as you are about that, I have a lot of respect for that. And I think one thing that's interesting here is perhaps the preparation that was involved in it, because you went to school, like you said, you had like a good background, you also had like a good support system around you, and that seems to be like similar to like what you do and maybe your quote unquote like extracurriculars is like the training that you do for boxing, the training that you do to run. I mean, where do you see like that discipline and that lifestyle of like the activity that you're doing intersect with your business? And do you think that the two are necessary to like function?
that's a great question, and I do feel there's just like a synergy there, and like my brain specifically, I feel like one feeds the other, and like I need to kind of like get that anxious energy out of me with physical activity, and kind of quiet those intrusive thoughts or whatever it may be, just like bring my frequencies down a notch,
Yeah.
and that just opens my mind creatively, and not only creatively, but like you said, in discipline for work. If I'm not disciplined with my with my workout, it's hard for me to be disciplined with work. Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the exact relationship is there. It just like,
But you just see it being the thing.
yeah.
Now, I know that I don't run as far as you do. And even now, I think I'm running less than when we used to run together, like maybe 3 miles. I'm just overrunning. But I know like sometimes at like 4 miles, I'm like, dude, I really got to do this last mile. And I have to like get into a weird place in my head sometimes to just push and like try to get my best split. You've done these races that are, you've done marathons, you've done like 30 milers, so on and so forth. What are some of the things that are going to your head at like mile 27, 28, like to get to the end?
So I remember the first marathon. No, actually, one of the first races I ran that I struggled with. I remember one thing that got me through the finish line was one foot in front of the other.
Really?
As simple as that. Just one foot in front. Don't think of anything else. One foot in front of. And yeah, for an ADHD mind like mine,
Yeah.
something so grounding, like a mantra basically that worked. Got me going, got me through. Then, the more you dive into the craft, whatever it may be, I feel, your goals change and your inner dialogue changes. And definitely I feel I'm harder on myself now.
Yeah.
And maybe we were having a little bit of this conversation, and maybe I'm not so compassionate with myself. And maybe in those last finish lines, I'm kind of maybe bullying myself a little bit. So I've taken a step back on that aspect of my inner dialogue. But on a healthy day, I would probably say, like, I know I'm going to feel so much better after finishing it. And just finishing what I told myself I was going to do always just sets me up for victory in everything, I feel.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a big one. What about like in boxing? It's a little different. You're taking hits, you're throwing hits back. What's the longest fight that you've done? 5 rounds?
No, fights? No, I've never gone over 3 rounds. But I mean, I sparred for a few rounds, but it's different, right?
Yeah.
But Yeah, no.
So in that
3 of 3.
last minute of the last third round, and to anybody that's like never done it, like it's hard. You know what
Oh
I
my
mean?
God. I remember fights where at the second round or at the first bell, bro, I was like, bro, I can't, like, I don't know how I can go another one right now.
Really?
And I had two to go,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, and that I feel it just kind of peels the onion so much, you know, breaks so much walls in your inner dialogue. Like, yeah, just going past your perceived limits. That's boxing, right? Just,
Yeah.
yeah. And running too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the interesting thing about both. With boxing in particular, like you mentioned that you had these thoughts of like, I don't know if I can go round 2 or 3. Like, do you remember any specific, I mean, you know, there's a lot going on, but do you remember anything specifically that you're telling yourself within these rounds that like that's actually getting you through?
So I remember a couple of coaches telling me things that changed my like my cortisol to adrenaline. I swear to
Nice.
God, it like one time my first fight, my coach Pete White, shout out to Pete White, he's one of the best dudes I've ever met. After the first round, I was dying, bro. Like so much pressure, so much anxiety, and he said, "Bro, you run 11 miles. You ran 11 miles a few weeks ago. This is nothing." Like he just made me kind of like, not to say that words of affirmation are my love language,
Yeah.
but like he did build me up, you know. And I feel sometimes that's what gets to us. Like the negative voice kind of takes over when we should listen to that maybe sometimes even kid voice in a child voice that is like, yeah, I can do anything, or I can do this, basically. Yeah, I feel like, yeah. So that, like, just positive thinking, and that's one. And one of my last fights, I remember my coach, Jesse Mandapat. This fight, I was dominating it, though. It's a completely different mindset thing, but he said, like, bro, you're, like, playing with this guy. It's time for you to, like, put it on the line, like, risk it, go all out. And he was so right. Like, I was, like, saving myself. Like, I knew I was dominating. So, and there's so much to that, and there, too, like giving all and not just, like
not just enough to win, but
exactly,
to give it all.
Exactly. And that's huge. And that kind of got me going too. And I did finish that fight. And that, again, just those two times I just saw, like, bro, I thought I couldn't, and these people outside me knew I could. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's I get emotional. That's the magic of boxing. And I know not to cling on it, but I remembered what I was going to say when we were talking about creative stuff. And it's that, like, the more you immerse yourself with your craft, and the same as with boxing, I feel, and stuff like that, I feel the more you see the beauty and imperfection, and the more like everything that everyone that is not like a purist does kind of seems the same, and you see the beauty and imperfection. And, like, for example, in motion blur for video or for photo, or in I don't know, in maybe, I don't know, copywriting, saying a slang word or something that is not, like, you know. So yeah, I just feel the more you and I feel that kind of ties itself to the racing and the boxing, where the more you do it, the more your goals change, and you see it differently, you know, and the way you approach it just changes.
Yeah, dude, I love that. All of those are so big. I mean, the beauty and imperfection is huge, you know, especially with something like music, because you take somebody like Jack White, right? Like, and Jack White, insanely talented dude.
Beautiful example, bro.
But then what he puts out, he has a guitar that I personally don't care for the tone too much, and like
sounds like, yeah,
doesn't even have a bass guitar.
I think his whole thing is proving that you can build a guitar out of garbage and still, like, make great music with shit tone, kind of.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, but you're exactly right. It's like, okay, there's that, and then there's somebody, like, have you heard of Polyphia? Yeah. It's like those are two completely different genres.
Super polished.
But both are like beautiful. And then same thing, you know, like you said with boxing. You know, like, sure, Mayweather's one way, but, like, you know, Pacquiao's like kind of sloppy, but also great, if not better.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a different argument, but it's fine.
And one common interest we have, and that is so much that is punk rock, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like the singing isn't perfect, the drummer isn't maybe not on tempo, bro.
Yeah.
But it makes you like chills, and you
Yeah.
have chills, and that's like the epitome of like the imperfection in the beauty of imperfection. Because music is so uptight and like and stuff, and punk rock is so against the norm, anarchy, or whatever, and
It's
so
crazy.
beautiful at the same time. Yeah,
Have you heard Blink-182's latest song?
I did.
Yeah.
I love the video.
The one for the slow one that he sings that they're singing, right?
It's just a green screen, and it changes to all, it like reminisces on all their old videos. Yeah.
Did you like the song itself?
I like the production. I like some of the songwriting. I didn't really. It kind of gave me a vibe of some of their old. There was one song that they had.
They had like Adam's song.
Yeah, there was one that was an acoustic and a cello.
Oh yeah. I think I remember which one you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Na 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 na. Or that might be Boxcar Racer.
I was thinking. I think that's Boxcar Racer.
Okay, but yeah,
it's so funny when you said acoustic with the cello. I was like, I think that's Boxcar Racer immediately, and then you said that. Yeah.
But there's another song, a Blink song. I'll swear to God, I'll send it to you. That kind of made me think of that one, but at the same time, it makes, I don't know. I didn't resonate with my young Blink fan, but I did like it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I liked it because I think the style was it's like vintage. And then it was also heartbreaking, you know how like Tom gets kicked out of the band.
The lyrics are great, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually think he ended up writing the whole, this is I don't know, but it's like, I think he wrote the whole song. And then when he says like, it shouldn't take sickness, it shouldn't take airplanes falling out of the sky. And it's like Travis, with his thing with DJ AM, like in the plane, and then Mark getting cancer. And it's just like, yo, like, you were watching from the sidelines and going through this, your heart's breaking. So like from that perspective, I really liked it. Obviously the nostalgic Blink, like it's not all there. It was like a little bit more emo, but I feel like that song grew up with me in that like, we are more aware of our emotions without deterring too much from who they are as a band. And we both like Thrice. And I feel like, for me personally, Thrice is the one band from our childhood where or from our teen years, whatever, where like they grew up, their music changed, but I like they grew up with me, or I grew up with them, and like every album they put out, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get this.
And I get that. And again, I feel that's, again, the polar opposites in a way. Thrice has super been polished. They're super good musicians, super good songwriters. And Blink was always like, Tom and Mark were not always a great vocalist. Like Travis has always been the prodigy there. Yeah. But I love your point there, because the songwriting in that song is beautiful, and it's so personal, and it's so aware. It's like, we hated each other, and this is why. And he breaks it down to like public events that everyone is aware to, and that's so amazing how he does that in such a simple like song. And again, just like the beauty and simplicity, the beauty and imperfection, and now I kind of stand corrected. Like, it is a beautiful song, and
it's just crazy to see that stuff happen, man. I love your story because there's always new things that come out of talking to you about what your life was like. And one of the craziest things that I admire about you is like, for one, your tenacity in the things that you're doing. You're running a business, freelance business, whatever. It's just not easy to do. It sucks sometimes. You know what I mean? Plus, like the way that you train, I think like I admire that a lot. But also the fact that there's so many other things there. Price Waterhouse, like you did this thing with this startup business with the KT tape, like all these things, like artists, music, like it's crazy to meet people that are like that. Right now for you, the focus is muscle memory media. My bad.
It's kind of a tongue twister.
M cubed.
M. Oh yeah, M cubed. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you're the mathematician.
Yeah. I'm good at numbers. What?
And I would venture to say that you've made like somewhat of a name.
Someone having a child next door.
Sorry. I would venture to say that you've made somewhat of a name for yourself in the Orange County and Southern California fitness scene with the videos that you create.
Thank you.
But what would you say is like your, I guess obviously that's your quote unquote niche. You've done crazy stuff for blue light. You know what I mean? I was going through some of these videos before, but a brand called Amala, I think you remember, where that's like a beautiful video.
Bro, I love those videos.
Yeah.
I have them still stored.
Yeah. I put that on our portfolio when we're pitching people, actually. And so, but what would you say is like kind of like your mission or your vision for Muscle Memory Media?
That's a great question. And I do want to say, like, I do enjoy like our collaboration with Blue Light Media and like kind of, yeah, all the projects we've been fortunate enough to collaborate with you and that you've invited us to. We love Nelson, we love you, we love Amanda, we love everyone.
Yeah.
That here. So yeah, shout out to Blue Light Media. What are Muscle Memories Media's goals? That's a great question, because we're kind of having those conversations now that we are a team physically. Because, I started as a self-employed business owner, then kind of turned into like had some virtual remote contractors here and there, and now we're kind of being more of a team and with local shooters and this and that. So both of our conversation has talked about music and has talked about like athletics, and I kind of see Muscle Memory Media going both in those ways. Like you said, we kind of have been going hard on the fitness side, hence the name Muscle Memory too. There's a kind of so we're very like not really. I don't know how to pinpoint it right now. But fitness and music, just creating for brands, for creators, and I enjoy creating, basically.
Honestly, like that's probably the most healthy thing that I've talked to with any business owner is like, what's the goal? It's like, I just want to keep creating. Oh, like that's awesome. Because once it becomes more than that, in my own experience, that's when it starts to suck. I like hesitated. It's like, it's not that Blue Light Media sucks.
No, I'm not going to say also that I don't have projects that suck or that I get put down and, oh, bro, like this, like, you know, but yeah.
That's when it becomes hard. It's like, you got to stick true to the passion, right?
Yes. I'm not going to undermine the importance of setting goals for yourself, you know, and for your, especially for your business. But right now we're obviously in a kind of a transition phase, and we are having those conversations and setting kind of mini goals at the moment. So yeah. And yeah, that one thing we do always talk about is that we have loose parameters. Mm-hmm. So we like to have parameters. So for example, I just told you music and fitness, but we like to keep open minds and kind of like see where things take us and what we like and what we don't like. Yeah. And who we like to work with and who we don't like to work with. Yeah. And we've been fortunate enough to have that work.
Yeah. I think you've been killing it. I mean, I see, for one, the everything that you put up on social is fantastic, but I've also seen I've been able to see firsthand experience of you by yourself behind the camera doing like everything A to Z, and then I've seen you recently doing some bigger productions, studio stuff, like with like a team around you, crazy lighting. I can't remember, it was like a couple of weeks ago, but you were in some studio doing something, and I was like, I was personally just like really happy for you, to be honest, because I think I've been fortunate enough to see some of the growth from like Jonathan Hanson to like Jonathan made it to like Muscle Memory Media. And it's something that you were talking about a year and a half ago. And now seeing that come to fruition is pretty sweet.
I love that, man. And I appreciate that. And coming for you means a lot for sure. Yeah, I do see that too. And maybe that kind of drives the point to your previous question, because I enjoy both. I enjoy like the big crew projects, and I like sometimes being the one-man band and just doing my take on things and kind of expressing whatever I'm capturing kind of my way. But obviously every time it's the client's way, number one, but at the same time kind of my way. But why I'm saying it ties into the other question is because, yes, I do feel I enjoy both, but if I do feel our goals are oriented towards growth in that aspect, and where like we do have a team, a crew, we can send people, we can attend several shoots at a time, which we are doing now.
That's cool.
But we would like to kind of be the creative video, like the creative team for like specialized in video for fitness and music in SoCal.
Yeah.
Something like that, maybe, if we were to pinpoint it.
Yeah, that's pretty tight. I love that. It's cool to see you do. It's cool when you can tie a bunch of things that you love in together.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, that's my ADHD. I gotta like focus, but it does have a silver lining for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for sharing everything that you have today. I mean, even though we've talked about a lot of these things in the past, like I said, there's still always something new to learn about you, and I love that. I'm excited to check in a year and see how Muscle Memory Media continues to grow. I will actually know. That's the funny part, because I'm sure we'll still be working together in all of these projects, but it'll be fun to position it as if I don't know for the listener.
I love that. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to connect with you, before I ask the last question, if somebody wanted to connect with you, how could they find you?
Okay. musclememorymedia.com, or on Instagram, muscle.memory.media. You'll find me there too. My personal stuff is kind of long and not easy to spell, so we'll leave it there.
Amazing. So last question of the day, and this could be a long conversation or it could be a short conversation. Actually, there has to be one question for the last question. Did you watch the Errol Spence Bud Crawford fight?
I did.
Did you think that this is the question. Did you think that Errol Spence was going to get as beat up as he did?
That's no.
Right?
But so, like, a little tiny voice inside me kind of said that Terrence was that superior. Yes.
Really?
But
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I feel Errol is athletically superior. Yes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Terrence, but no, honestly, no, I didn't. The speed and the snappiness and was just, he was in another gear, and I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
It was crazy. I could not, but for one, I felt beat up paying $89 to watch this by myself. But it was crazy to see.
I gotta send you a link, bro. No, I'm kidding.
I know, right? But I have Errol Spence on my vision board, because I'm like, dude, that's like, he's southpaw, so I like that. I'm like, that's my guy. Like, not my guy actually. For me, it's like actually Triple G. But it's like, but I love Errol Spence. I could not believe how beat up he got. My heart almost broke for him. I was like, oh my gosh.
No, yeah, it was tough to watch. You've never seen him like that ever.
No, the only thing that beat him up harder than that was that Ferrari.
Oh my God, yeah.
Was that messed up to say?
Maybe, but I think Terrence probably effed him up worse, bro.
I guess, we have time, and I'm curious about your thoughts on it. Charlo Canelo.
So I admire Charlo, bro. He's a dog, and he's a great hard worker, and he punches hard and has a worth ethic, and he does it all for his family, and I really like him. And one of his coaches is coach of Jeremiah's coach. Yeah. Jeremiah's my coach. So I really like Charlo, but I think it's the weight difference is gonna be the thing. It's just too much to jump those two weight classes with someone as experienced and as Canelo, and just as good as Canelo and as powerful. And Canelo coming down from those light heavyweight, like he's not only is Charlo coming up to, but Canelo's coming down too. So it's not gonna be easy for Charlo. What do you think?
I feel similar. I feel similar about that. Like, I don't think that Charlo is the guy to give him trouble the way that like Bivol did, or even in his last fight, because from what I've seen, and I could be wrong, so to the listener and to you, it's like I haven't watched a lot of Charlo stuff, but I don't see him staying as long as he needs to stay to give Canelo trouble. I think like because Charlo is that dog, he wants to get inside and try to and throw down, but I don't think that Canelo is the dude to do that with.
Yeah, so to that point, I think if he's smart, he will use his jabs and straight punches a lot and stay on the outside, which he's really good at. Yeah. He is really snappy. He is really explosive and strong. So he could stay on the outside. I feel he might be still longer than Canelo. Yeah. Like might have the reach advantage. So who knows? But Yeah, it's a tough one for him. It's a tough night for him, but it's a payday. It's a huge fight.
Yeah.
It's his name on the storybooks forever. So
A lot of people win, I think.
Yeah.
Even so. Thank you again, man. Really appreciate that we took the time to do this. This was
Yeah, bro.
a lot of fun.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate you, and this was a lot of fun. I appreciate, like you said, we've been talking about it for a while, and it's been real, bro.
Yeah, it's been real. To the listener and the viewer, watcher, there's only one of you guys on YouTube for sure. Anyways,
The voyeur.
thank you so much for your time and attention. We really appreciate it. If you love the episode, we would dig a 5-star review. If you didn't like it that much, feel free to stick it to us, but subscribe anyway, because we're going to have a ton of incredible people just like Jonathan Hanson back on the show. Thanks again, Jonathan.
Thank you, bro.